right, good afternoon, Warren Wilson families. Thank you for joining us for our 2021 Spring Welcome Back webinar with President Lynn Morton and campus leaders. My name is Heather Wingert, and I'm the Director of Parent and Community Relations. We sincerely hope your family is staying safe and healthy during this time. College in the time of COVID has shown us what an extraordinary opportunity we have to join forces with parents and family members so that we can ensure together that our students are successful in starting and finishing the spring semester strong. Whether your student is on campus or learning remotely, our partnership with you is essential, and we are thankful for all the ways you're a part of helping our students stay committed to their studies and their goals. We are fortunate that Warren Wilson College has been positioned well for in-person learning during the pandemic, and that the number of positive cases remained at 0 throughout last semester. We want to ensure this virus is contained and keep you informed as much as possible, so together we can give our students the best learning experience while keeping an eye towards their well-being. Additionally, we need your help. Supporting students to advocate for themselves by getting the information and resources they need is a natural part of the transition to college. And as family, we know that keeping you informed helps keep them informed. That's what brings us together today. Leaders from across campus want to share updates with you, answer your questions, and work with you to point students in the right direction. I want to share a few of the best ways to get information about the college. And after I speak, I'll be putting links in the chat box so it's easy for you to reference. We have our family webpage, and this was created specifically for you. On the landing page, if you haven't already, please take a moment to sign up to receive our monthly newsletters called The Talon. This is the best way to receive current happenings, news, and important updates from the college. WWC Connect. This is a place to bring a concern or a question about your student experience to a staff member on campus who can help direct your question. And then our parent Facebook group is a place to connect with other families and learn about the latest campus happenings. Facebook is a great place to ask questions with other parents, and then to use WWC Connect if you have questions that we can answer on the campus side. And then who to contact. I am always available and here if you need to reach out to me. My email is hwingert@warren-wilson.edu, and I'll be sure to include that in the chat box. And then I also want to let you know that CEAC, our Center for Integrated Advising, is here to help support your student navigate the transition to college, and it's an excellent starting place for your student, especially their integrated advising coach. So let's jump in. Now I would like to kick it off to one of our moderators, Zan Garland, Vice President for Advancement, who will lead us through our presentation and open it up for questions at the end. We'll also be sharing information about upcoming virtual events that you can partake in with your student, so please be sure to stick around if you're able. A recording of today's webinar with links to the important resources we share with you today will be in the chat box, and we'll also send up in a follow-up email. Zan?
Hi, everyone. My name is Zan Garland, and I'm the Vice President for Advancement at Warren Wilson, which here means managing external relations. As Heather said, I'll be moderating the Q&A with Brian Lechte, Vice President for Enrollment and Marketing, at the end of the presentation. Please submit your questions in the Q&A box. You'll find the Q&A box as you hover over your screen with your mouse. We'll finish the presentation on the hour and stay a few minutes after that to answer questions as needed. My colleagues in Advancement will also be monitoring the Q&A. Now, I would like to introduce President Lynn Morton. President Morton joined the college in the summer of 2017 after spending more than 20 years at Queen's University of Charlotte, where she was a faculty member, dean, and finally provost of that institution. She's an incredible leader of the Warren Wilson community, harnessing the distinctiveness of this place in her strategic work and vision here. It's my pleasure to introduce President Lynn Morton.
Thank you, Zan. Welcome, everybody. I know we have some returners. You've done these webinars before, and I think we also have some new families we've not had on a webinar before. So welcome to all of you. I hope you had a restful and truly wonderful time as far as you could do that under the current circumstances with COVID with family over the holiday period. We're looking forward to starting back up again in the spring. And while this webinar is really about that and what life will be like on our campus in the spring, and to give you the opportunity to ask questions and have us answer them, I really feel that I would be remiss if I did not open up with a few words about where we are as a country. Watching what happened yesterday on Capitol Hill unfold, we were in the middle of a conference for presidents, by the way, called the Council for Independent Colleges. It's a gathering of college presidents from across the country that happens every January. On Monday, before the events of yesterday, we were already talking about the challenges that we face and the fragility of our democracy, as well as the need to nurture that democracy and justice, and to be intentional about how we do that on our campuses. Last night was traumatizing for many people, and many people have spent the day writing about that and talking about it. And in the college president world, we've been talking about how we are called to make the world a better place. I wanted to share just a couple of words from one of our keynote speakers, a Harvard scholar named Dr. Danielle Allen. She's written a book called Talking to Strangers, and it's really about the polarized times we live in, as well as how we can intentionally choose the kind of community, the kind of world, the kind of nation that we want to be. Colleges are, by definition and by our mission, committed to the public good. We are service organizations. We are places of growth and discovery. To do this, and especially in times of crisis, we really must develop trust. We must rebuild those lines of trust and listen to other people's stories. We must find human and moral solutions. We have to have our students and all of our good at heart at all times. This semester, I am going to invite our entire campus into a variety of conversations, not only about justice, but also about our values and about who we want to be as a community. I think that there is no better example of our values and our potential as a community than how we managed through the fall. It was a challenging time. I cannot tell you how impressed and how touched I have been by the diligence of our students, our faculty and staff, in looking out for each other, in being committed to the protocols, to the point where occasionally I would get an email from a student reporting someone on campus from outside, someone who was not part of our community or someone who was not following protocols. The students took this very, very seriously, and it is completely to their credit that we were able to finish the semester without a diagnosed case of COVID in our residential population. We face an even more challenging spring, and we all know that. We will have to be even more diligent, even more caring, even more conscious of all of our actions as we move forward. Please do know that this college is committed to the health, the safety, the nurturing, and the full functioning of all of our students. And now let's launch into our formal presentation. So first of all, thank you all. We're so grateful for everything you've done to support the college and everything you've done to support your students, as we have also tried to do. As I've said, we had no residential cases of COVID on our campus, and we had other successes as well. Our faculty, for example, continued, even though they had to pivot to teaching online, they continued to do their research. We have some notable grants that they achieved over the fall semester, and we're just so pleased with everything that they were able to do. Our staff worked hard. They were at home some of the time. They were on campus some of the time. We were sort of in a constant state of nervousness, to tell you the truth. I don't think anybody relaxed until all the students were able to go safely home. I'm very grateful for all of our faculty and staff and all of the effort that they put in, as well as my hardworking cabinet They're all here, and you will be hearing from them later on. The challenges, of course, were multiple. We are in a time when we are reckoning with racial injustice, and we have been working hard on our diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And I would just remind you that we do have a webpage devoted to that work, and we have had several updates recently, including our quarterly report. So please do take a look at that so you can see the ongoing work on behalf of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm going to try to address at a high level some of the questions that we've gotten already. And please know that our Vice President for Student Life, Paul Perrine, is here, and he will be doing a deeper dive on our COVID protocols and what we plan for spring. The question has often come up about regular and universal testing. The situation has changed, as it has been changing around COVID since the beginning of the pandemic. Last semester, we were advised by our health professionals with whom we've been working throughout the entire pandemic, the Mountain Area Health Education Center, as well as the county, that asymptomatic testing was not necessarily recommended, although many colleges had done that, and that we should put our resources into symptomatic testing, quick contact tracing, and quarantine. And that was the approach we took. Towards the end of the semester, however, we did have much more access to testing. And as Paul will explain later on, we tested several hundred of our students and all of our student athletes, and offered testing upon request at the end of the semester before students traveled home. What we will be doing this semester is different. We will be doing much more surveillance testing on a regular basis. We are requiring that all students be tested upon arrival on campus. Paul will talk more about that, how that will work, and what will happen. We are asking that students isolate before they come back to campus. And Paul will also talk a little bit more about some of the recommendations we're making about travel and how to travel safely. We also will have our health ambassadors again. Remember, these are students. We have 6 of them. They've been working with MAHEC quite deliberately and regularly, being trained on contact tracing, on COVID protocols, and really offering support and encouragement to our students. They've done a really wonderful job, and they are ready and raring to go again. Protocols will remain the same. They will be strictly enforced, and it will be, again, the 3 W's. Waiting 6 feet apart, wearing a mask, washing of hands. We will have the same protocols in classrooms around cleaning and around hand sanitizing. The dining hall will remain at 50% occupancy at all times, and we'll have takeout meals. Physical distancing on a college campus is challenging. Our students did a really great job of forming pods, of being with students that they felt safe with and that they knew were really being safe. That worked well for us, and we are hopeful that our students will take it even more seriously this time, given the fact that there is a new strain of COVID that is apparently more contagious than the one we've been dealing with so far. We do not have that strain yet in North Carolina, but our health officials are telling us that will probably spread across the country fairly quickly. Some of our students have reported some feelings of isolation. I think this is what we are all feeling. Everybody is missing being together in the ways that we were before. There is hope on the horizon with vaccines, and we are really working closely with health authorities. I had a meeting yesterday with our MAHEC professionals about when we could expect to see more vaccines and when college students would be able to get that vaccine. Right now, there is a concerted effort in Western North Carolina among all of the presidents and chancellors to try to get our faculty and staff to be vaccinated at the same time that teachers in K-12 are. And also, we're working with the state of North Carolina to get that moved up for college students who are currently in phase 3. We do have our COVID tracking dashboard still. It is easily found on our website, and we do report there regularly. Our cases when we have them, or suspected cases, the number of people in quarantine. You can see everything that's happening. We update that daily. It's a really great resource. And finally, back to the community we aspire to be. I know that this semester we will be challenged, as we were last semester, to keep the chin up, to work together as a community, to look out for each other, to listen to each other's stories, find our human and our moral solutions and our common purpose, and think of ourselves always as the close community we already are and the community we aspire to be. And now we have Student Life. So I will introduce Paul Perrine, our Vice President for Student Life, as I said, who will do a little bit of a deeper dive into what to expect.
Thank you so much, Lynn, and thank you everybody for being here. It really means a lot that you're participating in this in anticipation of our being able to safely welcome your student back to campus. So a deeper dive into some takeaways from the fall 2020, some successes we had. As Lynn mentioned, we had no campus outbreaks on campus and no concerns on campus. They were all negative. We tested close to a third of our population by the end of the semester. Either, at the end, we processed about 70 COVID concern cases, all turned out negative. And so I really think that that's a huge success of us. And what I've said is we are anticipating that we will have positive cases on campus, and we're ready for that. Another success for us is really our protocols. My Student Life task force, the COVID task force, really put a lot of time and effort into the protocols on how we work with your students should we have concern if they're positive. And really the feedback we heard from students, is they really felt cared for. And that was really at the heart of what our protocols are, by assigning a case manager, making sure we're if anything, over communicating with them and meeting their needs, and really bringing that personal contact that we're able to do. So that was a huge success. As Lynn mentioned, also a big success is our students following the protocols. We really did find that our students followed the protocols and took it seriously, and were often even more proactive than some of us were going to be in their concern and caution and not wanting that to be spread. We have an anonymous form for people to turn in concerns of their, if they see them, and we address them. Students utilize that form, and that was really helpful for us. Of course, some of the challenges this one we solved, but the availability of testing in the fall was really challenging for us. Although most people did, there was some challenges that some students didn't follow the protocols, but they responded. We did hall meetings individually. I personally did hall meetings with an entire one floor at a time to make sure that they understood the seriousness of our protocols, and they did respond to that. The other challenge, that we mentioned already is just the togetherness. People really want and need to be together. We all feel that. And I think the way that our community can respond and be more intentional about being together, it really does call for intentionality. So some of the adjustments we're making for the fall, here we are doing mandatory entrance testing. So everybody coming to campus will be tested. We have antigen tests that we will bring people in. The first thing people will do when they pull up to campus is to follow our directions and park adjacent to the health center. We'll test them all at the health center, and if they're positive, if they get a negative test, which means they can come onto campus, they're going to get a wristband that we're going to have them wear to signify this, and then they'll continue with the rest of the check-in process. If they do show positive, we'll transport and we'll make sure we'll get them to our isolation center. They could also return home, but we'll move them to our isolation center and follow up with a PCR test. So that's probably the biggest test, the biggest change we're making. Now, we do recommend, we've sent an email to students recommending that they do get a test before they come to campus if they want to know if why they should even drive. Should they even come to campus? You can find those tests in your area. You know, it's up to you. But we know that we're going to test them regardless of when they come to campus. The other thing we're going to do change for this semester is surveillance testing. And during the semester, we're going to do that on like a bi-weekly basis to go through and surveillance test significant parts of our population on the ongoing part of the semester, and using our tests that we have, purchasing more tests so that we'll continue to do this. So we feel this will give us a greater insight into the presence, being able to identify and address the virus if it is on our campus. We're also asking students to be strict about their family units. You know, our students, I think they call them pods. You know, there's different terms that they use, but we really want them to start the semester following the family units there. We also want folks to know that they really need to be diligent about the 3 W's, including the masks and the distancing. So just wearing a mask doesn't mean that you don't have to follow the distance, especially with a strain that's perhaps more transmissible. We want the students to beyond just wearing a mask, but to be real strict about the distancing as well. We in the state of North Carolina are under a curfew here at 10 p.m. and we as a campus are not immune to that curfew. So that'll be a change until that is lifted for us in North Carolina. Our students on campus will need to follow that curfew and be inside by 10 p.m. We recommend, like Lynn said, in terms of traveling to campus, the recommendation, we want our students, besides starting to quarantine right now and limit their exposure, limit their contact with people outside of their immediate family, we need them to start that now. When they're coming to campus, we really want them to be safe when they're traveling. You know, that includes avoiding inside dining on their trip here, maybe bring food with them, make bathroom trips really fast, and to wear a mask as much as you can on the travel from your home to campus. And that's really one of the things that we feel so that students don't pick up the virus onto campus. You know, the other parts we talked about are the supports here that we have on campus, and we remind students of this, and we want you to know this so you can help remind your students. You know, of course, we have our counseling center. And our counseling center is online. It's continued to be very well used and active. It's a link that your students can find on the My WWC page. I think we can post that too here in terms of using our counseling center. The new thing that we added this coming semester is our Timely MD. You saw an email about this, and so did our students, to give them 24/7 access to a host of services, including immediate talk now therapy. It doesn't have to be an emergency. They can talk to anybody. Immediate 24/7 access to a health medical professional, to a doctor. They can get on with the doctor at any time of the day or night and talk to them, be assessed, perhaps if they need a prescription. There's also health counseling available in that system too, where they can talk about and get some health coaching for somebody if they're just not feeling well or want to talk through ways where they feel like they can be healthier. That's the Warren Wilson telehealth. They can do that online. They can download an app to do it. We're going to continue to push that. It started right at the end of the semester. We wanted to get it available to students over the break so they can use that right now. And we'll continue to be able to use that through the semester and over the summer as well. And really the biggest part for us is building community on this during this time of COVID. You know, there are activities that happen that certainly hasn't stopped. We are doing lots of programming, and sometimes it's helpful to know how to connect students with that. So there's weekly emails, there's calendars on the WWC app. There's also calendars online where they can find what those activities are. in there. So you can help connect them to us. So I'm way over time, but that's where we're our successes and challenges and the ways that we're adapting and changing for the upcoming semester. So thank y'all.
Hi, everybody. Jay Roberts here, Vice President for Academic Affairs. Good to have you with us this evening. Just give you a couple quick updates from the academic side of the house in terms of what we experienced in the fall and what we're looking forward to for the spring. As you may recall, if you were on the call during the fall, we had a hybrid learning model. What that basically means is that we had a range of course modalities for our students and our faculty. That included about a third of our classes that were all online, about a third of our classes which were some form of both online and in person, and about a third of our classes that were in person only. And as you can expect with our faculty, that was quite a bit of a challenge. If we kind of think back to this time last year, Warren Wilson was experiencing entirely in-person instruction. I wasn't here at the time, but I believe that there was little to no online learning instruction whatsoever just a year ago today. So it's pretty amazing to think about the scale and the scope of the pivot and the shift that our faculty have done over the course of the spring and fall of 2020. We are expecting that our spring sort of offerings of modality are going to mirror fairly similar to the fall in terms of the percentage of the courses that are going to be in person, some form of a hybrid of online and in person, and then in person only. We learned a lot from the fall, just as we had in the spring before that. We spent a good chunk of the time in the summer helping our faculty get up to speed on best practices in online instruction. Warren Wilson is known for its teaching and learning environment, and we wanted to replicate that even if it meant in an online environment, which many of us were unfamiliar with at the time. Pleased to say that our Dean of Teaching and Learning, Gary Hawkins, went through a Quality Matters certificate course, which is essentially the best in class certification for online instruction. And that really enabled Gary to get a quick handle on where we were and where our faculty were in terms of best practices in online instruction, and to give faculty just-in-time faculty development, teaching modules, training modules to help them continue to improve the quality of their online pedagogy. And that has happened in the fall and will continue into the spring. Some things that we learned along the way: structure is really important. Our students at times struggled with the change in the learning environment and the ways in which it didn't have the same sort of routine and structure as what they were used to, whether in high school or at Warren Wilson previously. So we're really working hard with our faculty to create more structure and more opportunities for our students to understand what is expected of them, what the timelines are, and a bit more chunking, in essence, of courses so that we can set students up for success. Another big learning from the fall was just around relationship building. As you can imagine, if you were in person wearing masks or if you were online only, it's just a different form of relationship building. And so it took some time for our faculty and for our students to navigate that. And we'll continue to work on that as we move into the spring. Mentoring was another big aha and takeaway from the fall. It's just until you experience it, it's really hard to understand the loss of the informal interactions that faculty, staff, and students have with each other on campus, whether it's in the cafeteria or in the hallway or before or after class or during office hours. And that sort of organic, more informal interaction and mentoring was lost mostly with the COVID-19 outbreak and the change in our interactions with each other. So we are going to have faculty retreat next week, and we'll be talking very specifically with faculty about ways we can foster more interaction, more relationship building, and more mentoring between faculty and students, and also just student to student through faculty facilitated small group work, through faculty facilitated office hours and just other forms of no longer informal interaction, but formal structured interaction that feels informal, if that makes some sense. So mentoring for us is very much on our minds and something that we're going to continue to work on and work through. I think the other thing that I want to emphasize is just around what I saw in terms of the fall. I had a chance, even with our protocols and our social distancing, I had a chance to follow along with a biology professor who was doing a field lab on mushrooms. I had a chance to sit in on a bluegrass practice session with some of our music students underneath a tent outside. And I had a chance to sit in on a first year seminar capstone project where they were talking about what they had learned and done over the course of the semester, as well as with a course with Professor Lucy Lawrence, where the students were presenting their work on suggesting a intercultural communication certificate for Warren Wilson. And I guess what I can say in all of those experiences were that teaching and learning happened. And it happened, I think, quite effectively. I was seeing students who were engaged, students who were interested in the topics that they were having a chance to explore and learn about, and really good quality interactions between faculty and students over the course of everything that I had a chance to see over the fall. So I was quite pleased with that. It felt like a Warren Wilson educational experience, and I hope that from your experiences with your students that you are hearing that report as well. There's always room for improvement, and we will continue to do that. But by and large, it was a successful fall from my point of view. Just by way of conclusion, I wanted to give you a couple success stories that you may not have heard about that I think are worth noting. One is Elisa Hove, who is one of our biology faculty, received a fairly major grant to do ginseng research, believe it or not. And that will include paid research opportunities in the summer for some of our students. So that was an exciting thing that we found out about this fall. You may have also heard or seen some of our promotions around our Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. We had some exciting news there. One of our former founders of that program received the Nobel Prize in Literature, which is pretty significant. As well as we had 2 finalists for the National Book Award, graduates of our MFA program. So we were really pleased with that as well. So that's it from me at this point in time, but I'm happy to answer any questions that folks may have about the academic side of the house when we get to the Q&A. And again, thanks everybody for being here.
Good afternoon. I'm Belinda Burke. I'm the CFO and Vice President of Administration and Finance. Thanks for being here this evening with us. I wanted to touch base on student accounts and financial aid. Because we were working remotely, some student accounts and financial aid, we're meeting with students throughout the fall semester and will be throughout the spring semester. Remotely via Google Hangouts or other video methods, as well as they set up texting and email capabilities with the students, and also phone appointments. And it seemed to have worked very well. Now that we're getting ready to come back for spring, student accounts and financial aid are working with any students that are still looking at their bills, working on getting any of their loans. If they're new students and they're in verification, continuing to work with them through verification. If the students need to work on any payment plans, they can reach out to student accounts with regards to that. And they can email both student accounts and financial aid for any needs they have before returning to school or once they're back. So we will be in touch with any students that are still working through any bills or questions on their financial aid this week and next to work with them before classes start. From a facilities perspective for last semester and this semester, Cleaning in the residence halls was obviously a big focus for us, as well as just cleaning on campus as a whole. Fall semester, we outsourced and had a new cleaning company. And with any transition and change, there are always some learning curves. And our cleaning company really stepped up and has figured out how to best address our campus and our residence halls. So they are being cleaned 7 days a week. The trash is being removed twice daily, which was really important because so many students were taking to-go meals back to the residence halls. And the campus is being, all academic and administrative buildings are cleaned on a daily basis. And we have proper cleaning products that are EPA approved for COVID, and that will continue this spring semester. From an IT perspective, IT is transitioned and added some things for remote learning throughout fall semester, and will continue to work for faculty with any needs they have for spring semester. Information technology is there to support the students with any issues that they may have technology-wise. If they're online, IT can still work with them. They can reach out to our help desk for any needs they may have. And from a wireless perspective, Wi-Fi, we did have some issues at the beginning of the fall semester. We were quickly able to resolve those. We will continue to address those needs. We are in the process of doing a major Wi-Fi upgrade that will strengthen our signals and should receive improved service throughout campus, but that project is just getting started and will take a couple months to complete, but that is in the works for this semester. From a dining perspective, we outsource with Sodexo, who is a national food service provider. And we found that in the fall semester, the majority of the students took their meals to go. Obviously, it was nicer weather. They were eating outside or taking it back to their residence halls. We do have our dining halls set up and able to, for the students to eat in. It's socially distanced. We probably are down to, we need to be down. Buncombe County has a 30% restaurant inside eating currently as far as occupancy. We were already set up to where we felt we probably were only at maybe 30 or 40%. So we will ensure that we have those occupancy guidelines met. We are setting up Cannon Lounge, which is across from the dining hall, as overflow dining. We will still have everything available for the students to go. There were some questions from the students and parents regarding some of the food choices. We looked at that, and some of the things that we are going to do for spring semester is that we have brunch on the weekends, but we're going to add some more breakfast items into the brunch. We also are looking at adding a salad bar, which I believe the students missed the fact that we weren't able to have a salad bar during the fall. And we're working on how we're going to set that up. But we are looking at adding a salad bar. We're ensuring that there are enough things that students can also grab and take back with them to their rooms. And we always have vegan choices at all of our meals. In addition, we have Cow Pie Cafe that's open Monday through Friday. If your son or daughter has any special dietary needs, or if they have any concerns when they return, back for spring semester and do not feel they have choices that meet their needs, they can reach out to our food service director, Brian O'Loughlin, and he will be able to work with them directly to see what we can do to ensure they have the food that they need and to meet their dietary needs. So thank you, and I will answer any questions we may have after this. And I believe Kathy Kramer, VP for Applied Learning, is next.
Good afternoon. As Belinda said, I'm Kathy Kramer. I'm the Vice President for Applied Learning. And I wanted to talk a little bit about our work and community engagement first. Our work crews will continue to use a hybrid model as we did in the fall. And I think I would echo a lot of what Jay had to say about how academics went in terms of a hybrid model. We learned a lot, and we have found that crews mostly have kind of found their rhythm as they've gotten used to this new model. Some crews are all online, and that has been challenging in terms of the mentorship piece, but some of those students have also enjoyed the flexibility that has come with online work. And then some of our crews are in person. And I think some students who have chosen that option have really enjoyed that opportunity to be working with others and also to be lots of times working on the land. And that's been a good break from some other things that they've been doing, like looking at a screen a lot. So that will continue, and students again will have some options around their own comfort levels. We're also engaging students in professional development related to diversity, equity, and inclusion with some virtual sessions at the middle of this semester. In community engagement, we're hoping to be able to offer some more in-person engagement with the community based on some really strong successes we had in the fall. We have some partners that are following the same protocols that we are on campus. And so students have been able to work with partners on a limited basis in person. We'll also continue to offer remote engagement, and we're beefing up some opportunities there, particularly around tutoring, working with a local school. So there's some great options online as well for students who aren't comfortable with that. Moving on to integrated advising and career development. These are ways that we're connecting with students, and it feels so important in the middle of everything that's going on right now to be able to look forward and to think about the things that are next and to do some planning around some sense of normalcy for students around next steps. And so we encourage you to talk with your students about taking advantage of a couple of things that we're going to be offering. And one is to participate around goal setting with their integrated advising coaches. All students are going to be invited to work either individually in a group setting or through a written format with their coach to think about goal setting and next steps for them at Warren Wilson around work, community engagement, and their academic program, as well as thinking beyond. Also thinking about things like internships and study abroad, and what are those next opportunities they're going to be able to take advantage of. And in terms of internships, our career development office is hosting a virtual summer job and internship fair in the middle of February. Again, with that forward look, we've got employers who are very interested in our students. And so we really hope that you will support us in encouraging students to attend those events and to gather some excitement about next steps. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Kathy. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Lechte. I'm the Vice President for Enrollment and Marketing here at Warren Wilson, and also an alum. So it's great to have you all here tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'll also be serving as one of the moderators of the Q&A with Zan, who will be lending some support. So if you have questions, feel free to use the Q&A button down there at the bottom. You can also see questions that have been answered either live or some of the vice presidents are also answering them via text. So with that, I will kick us off with our first question, and this one is for Paul. There's a question in here about parents being tested on campus upon arrival if they're bringing their students and their things.
Yeah, that's a great question. No, we are not set up to test parents when they arrive. There we'll have this similar move-in protocols that we had in the fall, really only one person in and out with them. And we've limited the number of people coming back and where they are to limit the contact that parents may have with other people in the community as well. So no, we are not testing parents on return.
Paul, just while you're up here, there's a question about the effect of Governor Cooper's stay-at-home order on planned arrival dates. I think you addressed it, but just kind of reiterating that point.
Yeah. So the stay-at-home order was extended for 3 weeks, so essentially until the end of January, which covers the time when people are moving in, and really the effect, it doesn't affect the move-in per se, because all of our students that are moving in have been given and sent move-in times and dates, and those are all before 10 o'clock, well before 10 o'clock. They need to arrive during that time and date, because that's when we'll be expecting them when we've set up an appointment for them to get tested on campus. So that'll all happen before 5 o'clock. So as far as affecting the move-in, it really doesn't. But like I said before, the 10 o'clock curfew is, we're subject to that.
Thanks, Paul. This next question is for Belinda. How many residential students do we expect to have on campus this semester, and is that going to be different than the fall?
It's going to be very similar to the fall. The number is still changing as students continue to decide if they're going to be on campus or off campus. But right now we're around 469, which is very close to the same number that we had for fall.
Thanks, Belinda. And then Brian, this might be a follow-up for you around how someone asked a question about on campus versus remote last semester, and also how recruiting and admissions is going this year.
Yeah, things are going really well, despite the challenges, and the admissions staff working in a hybrid fashion, sometimes in person in the office and sometimes from home, but not doing any admissions travel. So for those folks that met us first at a college fair, we'd have to meet you online this time around. So for the spring semester, we're actually expecting a higher than usual number of new students. We think about 30 new students. We tend to have a much smaller spring class and a much larger fall class. And the early indicators for the fall are really positive. We're tracking behind in terms of our international applicants this year, which we sort of expected given the political climate as well as the pandemic. And our domestic applications are actually up year over year, which is a really positive sign. So stay tuned. Things are going well so far.
That's great. I'll jump into the next question since you just answered one. Hey, Jay, there's a question about people being able to find out the modality of each of the class that they're in. Do we have a way for people to do that?
We do. There is a way that students can access that information through my WWC, and I'm sorry, I don't know the exact specifics of it, but I do believe that's been communicated out to students. I can double check that and send out another communication with the direct link as needed. But yes, they can see which course is offered in which modality through that link.
Thanks, Jay. And while you're here, we do have another question for you. There's a question here about some rumors involving an incident between a student and a professor this past semester, and this parent is curious if those rumors or issues have been addressed.
Yeah, so not a rumor, actually did happen, and it was over the course of the semester, and I can talk about it in broad brush strokes without kind of getting into personnel issues, but it was a course in which a student brought up a concern around inclusive language and diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the type of content that was being covered and whether or not it was deemed offensive to particular identity types. And so we go through our normal protocols with that in terms of meeting with the student and getting some of the facts behind the case. As well as meeting with the faculty member and getting a sense of sort of what's happening in the course. We had a number of kind of discussions and changes and interventions that happened over the course of that semester. Unfortunately, it was not something that the student felt like was resolved to their expectation. And we had a case, as I think everybody can understand and maybe appreciate, where they're just differing opinions, not just student to the faculty member, but students in the course itself. Some students felt like the course and the content and the interactions were fine. Other students didn't. So we made the decision because it was getting to the place where it was what I would call kind of a miseducative kind of environment for the students and the faculty member, to enable the students that felt like they would be more supported to have an independent study with a different faculty member to carry through the semester. And so we did make that adjustment, and that did carry us through for the rest of the semester. As with when these kinds of things happen, and it's not unusual for these to happen, not just at Warren Wilson, but across the nation, we do a postmortem on it. And we did do that with the faculty member and a number of folks in academic affairs, including our faculty director of DEI, to kind of take lessons learned from it. And that will continue to inform our work around inclusive language, inclusive pedagogy as we move into the spring and beyond. So, resolved is not a word that I would use here. The kind of work that we have to do in terms of inclusive pedagogy and DEI in and out of the classroom is ongoing work. And we're all learning, and we'll all continue with that work as we go. So that's a little bit of a heads up on what that was about.
Thanks, Jay. I have one more while you're up here. And I think I know the answer to this one, but it's more of a maybe confirmation. It says that someone's asking to have finals before students leave campus. It looks like that is on the calendar to happen. Is that right?
Yeah, thank you. And I did neglect to talk a little bit about the academic calendar. So let me just back up and do that quickly. We took a look at the academic calendar for the spring. I think we made the right calls in the fall. I recognize that it was a little bit of a pain for some folks in terms of taking their exams at home. But I do feel like in retrospect, getting our students off campus and having that sort of punctuated semester, given where we now see the pandemic, that was the right call. As we look towards the spring, one of the things that we're doing is we are not, again, having a long-term spring break, and that's to minimize the inside and outside travel that we want to avoid in terms of increasing our exposure both to students, faculty, and staff. We have taken some feedback from students and from faculty and staff that the breaks actually do matter. So we are interspersing a number of break days over the course of the spring semester to give folks a little bit of time off, which we recognize and understand is important. And then on the specific question around exams, we will have a more normal exam period that will be taking place during the semester and in residence for those students that are in residence at the time. So those are the basic adjustments around the spring calendar.
Thanks, Jay. Sorry, Brian, before you jump in, I just want to reiterate to folks that if you go into the Q&A box and click on the answered section, you'll see, like Brian said, some of the answers have been written in. So if you had a question or if you're wondering if certain questions have been asked, go into the Q&A box and go into the answered section, and you'll see some of the answers written as opposed to answered live. And then if they were answered live, they moved over into the answered live section. So Brian, if you want to ask the next one.
Sure, I'd love to. So Kathy, this next question is for you, and it's related to the career fair and internship opportunities. And it's really about communication and maybe promises kept. So will there be a list available prior to the event that students can access and check out? And is there a way to ensure that students who are set up for an internship actually participate in that internship?
Sure. So actually, there's going to be 2 days that the fair will be going on, and that is because we have a lot of organizations that are summer camps and outdoor opportunities, and so because there's so many of those, and that's a focused interest for many of our students, that will happen on the 17th, and then on the 18th it will be the employers in other areas, and there will be lists available so that students can see like which employers are going to be there on which day in particular. We can't necessarily ensure that a student will get an internship, but what I can say is that we have an amazing internship director who works with students on their resumes, on their applications, on contacts with internships, and she'll stay with the student as long as they are working on, trying to secure an internship off campus, and she'll support them in making sure that they have every opportunity possible to secure one. And we've had very high success rates in terms of students around internships. It just kind of depends on what people are interested in. And then if they're working on an internship, particularly if they're working on it for some academic credit, we keep in touch with that student over the summer as well, making sure that they have a good experience with that internship.
Thanks, Kathy. I think we'll try to answer these last 3 questions that have been submitted quickly, and then Heather, I think we'll jump back on with the upcoming events. Just to answer that last question, the internship person's name is Hannah Richardson. And the other 2 questions for Paul. Has the false positive antigen testing rate improved, and what's the turnaround time for follow-up testing? And in addition, if you could just reiterate a little bit about what curfew will look like on campus.
Yeah. So it's great. I was just typing the answer to the antigen test. So our antigen tests overall are about 87% accurate. Now there's lots of variability that goes into that in terms of when you take the test, what your viral load is at the time of taking the test, how soon after a possible exposure that comes in. So all of that to say is, it is the best, quickest measure we can get. It takes 15 minutes to get an answer back to that test. If there is a positive, they will be confirmed through a PCR test, which is the more accurate test as well. And depending on the time of day when we find a positive on an antigen test, that could happen. The PCR test could happen as soon as that same day. If not, it will happen the next day. We work with our range urgent care, and we've actually worked out a home visit process for that. So they will get a visit in our quarantine facility from our range urgent care partners, and they'll come and conduct that test, and then it's waiting for that test result there. So. And then, what the curfew will look like. This news is only a couple days old in terms of that we are subject to the curfew. So what that will look like is students really do have to stay in their residence hall after 10 p.m. And there are exceptions, that the governor has put out for reasons why you can be out for work or for food, related items. But in general, they really want to be, they really want the state to be really down in that curfew time starting at 10 p.m. So that's what it'll look like. I don't know that we're going to do bed checks and require you into your room. I don't know if you had a curfew growing up, but not like that. But we really are going to enforce that, and really I think it's best for everyone. Obviously it's a late night gathering, it's providing accountability for spreading events that could happen on campus. So that's why we're glad. We want to keep people safe, we want to keep students on campus as best we can, so we'll be glad to comply with that order.
Great, thanks, Paul. And we've just got time for maybe one last question. This one will be for Jay before we wrap up. Do we have any certainty around graduation ceremony and what that might look like in the spring?
Certainty, Brian. Did you actually use the word certainty there? No, we do not. We have a graduation commencement committee that is already meeting and sort of working through all the logistics of what it means to launch a commencement. And they're going to be holding a variety of models in their head simultaneously. We're getting used to doing this. And one of, the possibility, it may be less of a possibility than we would like that we could do something in person. The possibility of what an online or a hybrid kind of format for a commencement might look like. I suspect that we are going to make a call on that in early March. And that's when we will know, more about where we're at with vaccines, where we're at societally in North Carolina, and then what impact we think that may have on a in-person commencement.
Heather, I think we're ready to close this out.
Yes, thank you so much, Cabinet, and appreciate all of you being here today and sharing all of this information. For all the families, thank you for joining us. We will be sharing a recording tomorrow along with all the links that are in the chat box for you. And just wanted to wrap up with our upcoming events. We have 5 events, virtual events planned for spring that we would love for you to partake in with your students. These are faculty webinars. And the next 2 months we have coming up in a couple weeks. We have one on Thursday, January 28th from 1 to 2 Eastern. And it is That's Not My Home, Music, Racism, and the Railroad's Arrival in Buncombe County, featuring faculty Jeff Keith and Kevin Kerberg. And then on Friday, February 26th, it's our inaugural Ian Robertson Distinguished Lecture and Inspired Work, featuring diplomat and journalist in residence Elizabeth Colton. And these are going to be exceptional lectures and great research that our faculty will be sharing with you. So thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to keeping in touch. If you have any questions following this webinar, please feel free to reach out to studentlife@warren-wilson.edu on the link, or you can also email me at hwingert@warren-wilson.edu. Thank you so much and have a good evening.